We don't recommend drywall in a basement, so what do we recommend? We're going to be using the Total Basement Finishing Everlast non-insulated panel. This panel is vinyl laminated, so it's pre-finished. No taping, no painting. And this vinyl finish is washable, so the homeowner doesn't have to worry about getting marks on the wall and so forth. It just wipes clean. In addition, it's a cement board. Unlike drywall, mold won't grow on it because there's no organic material. And if there was a flood, it doesn't suck water up from the bottom like drywall and grow mold. The perfect material to use in a basement environment. Besides that, it's hard, a lot harder than drywall, and it won't dent like drywall. You can put a screw to hang a picture or any kind of flat screen device on the surface of the wall anywhere. You don't have to find a stud. It holds screws really well. And when you pull the screw out, you can patch the screw hole with just a little bit of putty and it blends in with this texture. The color of the Total Basement Finishing panel is a blend of two of the most popular, actually the most popular interior colors, off-white and beige. And they're blended together with a pattern on a slightly alligatored finish so it expertly hides marks and wall shine and any little holes that you might putty. It's the perfect material to use in a basement environment. So we're going to start the installation of the TBF panels over the Basement to Beautiful panels by putting adhesive on the wall. We're going to put the TBF panel on it and screw just the edges. We can't put any screws in the field of the panel because the screw holes will, screw heads will show obviously. So we're just going to screw the very edges and that will be covered by a laminated trim, as you'll see. So if we want to take the next step and install finished panels on top of the Basement to Beautiful panels, the first step would be to mark on the floor where all the studs are, so that we can see those lines later on when we're installing the panels, when we're installing baseboard, so forth. Now, we're also going to mark where the lines where the electrical are, because we're going to cover those lines with our finished panel, and we're going to cut in the electric boxes later at this elevation, so we want to be able to see where we've got to do that. So we'll just make a line here, and I'll put an E for electric, and I'll put a black line for a stud, and I'll continue all the way around. Okay, so what we got to do is lift it up. So yeah, very nice. There's several methods to cut the panels. One is to use a jigsaw, and that makes less dust than a circular saw. You can use a jigsaw and have a vacuum plugged in to suck the dust up, which we're going to do right now and show you what that's like. Or you can use the circular saw with the vacuum setup, but you've got to use something underneath it, a foam panel underneath it. Otherwise the dust just goes right out the bottom and into the air. If you have something underneath it, the dust can't escape out the bottom and it has to go into the hood. So I'm cutting with the finished side down with a jigsaw because the teeth on a jigsaw blade are facing up and it cuts upward. And if I had the finished side up, I'd not only mark the finish with the table of the saw, but also peel the vinyl finish up a little bit. Okay, the bottom of the panel will be covered by a baseboard, so we have to keep the screws down within 3 inches of the floor so to make sure that they'll be covered by the baseboard. The top of the panel will be above the drop ceiling line. So we'll keep those screws as high as possible. And then on the perimeter, on the sides, we can put screws within 1 inch of the, within a half of an inch of the edge of the panel. Now, I don't like to take any chances here. So if I can get these panels together and put one screw where the screw head holds both panels, that would be the best way to do it, to ensure that these screw heads are going to be covered by the laminated trim. It's also important to get the screws in right away before the foam sets up. And so we want to squeeze the panel against the Btob panels while that foam is still very loose and sticky, so that it helps to hold the panel to the wall. Now we're going to put the inside corner on this panel because it's going into an inside corner. And we have our laminated trims, which means that this trim has the same finish on it as the panel does. We are going to hold the trim off the bottom of the panel by 3 inches, but this particular trim was damaged on the end, so we took a pair of tin snips and cut it off clean so we have a clean edge there. The next step is we're going to hold our trim here to our 3-inch mark, and we're going to cut it for length at the top of the panel. We cut the laminated trims with the tin snips, and it's that easy. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to cut the L part off of the trim 1 inch higher than the laminated corner. And what this allows us to do is, this 3 inches is for baseboard and for our flooring. And if there's some variation when this trim is on and up installed on the wall, if we had to cut another 1/4 of an inch off of this to get the baseboard to fit underneath it, it's so much easier without these pieces on there. So now all we have to do is take a utility knife and just slice off another 1/4 of an inch, and we'll be able to slide our baseboard underneath there. Now, to put the inside corner trim on, if you take it like this and you just push it on, it could roll the vinyl back on the panel. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to line up the end of it to our 3-inch mark, and then we're going to put the trim all the way forward like this and just roll it on around the back of the panel so that we don't lift the vinyl off the surface of the panel. Now here we can run our foam in a horizontal pattern because, unlike when we installed the Btob panel, if there was any water leakage, we wanted to run down into the water guard at the bottom. But here, of course, we don't have to worry about that. So we can go side to side. Okay, so we've kept the screws out of the part of the panel that will be exposed even after you completely finish the basement with the ceiling and baseboard. And the inside corner piece is adjustable. So if we take a square and we push it over, just like that, that works out fantastic. So that inside corner is ready, and as you can see, we've left it off so our baseboard can get under there. But the baseboard is actually 3 1/4 inches, so we're going to have to, then we have flooring as well, but we're going to have to trim off just a little piece there, and we'll hold our baseboard up to that inside corner trim and put a little pencil mark, and then we'll just use a utility knife and cut it off, and it'll come off so easily because we cut off that back flange of the inside corner trim.
Oh, you gotta put your end down, right? You're gonna put your end down. Just like that.